I am a spiritual healer, not a scientist. But as Spirit says, today's spirituality is tomorrow's science. But still, you need to be discerning when you hear this information following. You need to decide what resonates with you and what doesn't. If you're a parent, teacher, grandparent, or caregiver of one of these extrasensory children, congratulations, you're at the front lines of humanity's evolution. For these gifted children are the new wave of evolution upon the planet, so be prepared to expand your reality. This is the children of the new earth according to the channels of Keller and the ancients. So the first ones are the human children that are upon earth. They follow the normal developmental phases. They are usually engaged in their karmic cycles, and most of them are still asleep to the energy world. Then you have the light workers. The light workers are old souls. They have incarnated upon earth many times, and they usually come in to fulfill missions that they have been continuing for many lifetimes, such as the healer will be the healer. They're very wise, and they also are engaged in their karmic cycles. Then you have the children of the new earth. First of all, there's the peacemakers. They have a soft, open-hearted energy. They're easily wounded, they're empathic, and they will withdraw when they're overwhelmed. Then you have the warriors. They have a strong, open-hearted energy. They're concerned with fairness and equality. They're empathic, and they will fight back and resist any controlling energies. Old souls, they have a still, stable energy. They're not empathic, and they're solution-orientated, so they tend to just get on with the job that needs to be done. They hold the other children of the new earth in balance between the warriors and the peacemakers. Then you have the masters. Now the masters carry the energy of all other three. They also have an energy that is unsettling because they often trigger in others big processes that lead to a shift in consciousness in the other people. Sometimes you're often unaware that that is actually happening because they trigger you, and as adults we always think that it's the children that actually have the problem, but sometimes they're actually triggering in us changes that need to take place so we can be more of who we are. They're extremely empathic. They're extremely absorptive, and they can purge a lot when they're younger, usually at night time and at the end of the day. Now we're going to talk about something that a lot of people don't like to think about with these children of the new earth, and that is what happens when they get overwhelmed by energies. How do we help them? Particularly those that may purge in a big way. So first of all, you need to understand subtle energy. You need to understand what's actually influencing these children. So subtle energies can include feelings, emotions, past lives that are lying in the makeup of somebody, thoughts, words, environments like schools, large birthday parties that they go to, malls, things that are going to have a lot of extrasensory stimulation and subtle energies, spaces and places, different countries, times. And then, like, a good example is think of all the subtle energies that would exist in a news program, and then you can start to understand what is actually overwhelming these children as they go about their day. So one of the things that Spirit has brought through, and this is not scientifically validated information, but it is information that has been channeled through Spirit. Now, we're not talking about the physical brain when we talk about this. We're talking about the subtle energy body and how it responds to that extrasensory stimulation or overflow or overload, whichever way you want to call it. So the first thing that happens when a child comes across a stimulus that is too much for them, remembering that they are children of the new earth, so their energy system is more refined than ours. So first it goes into the frontal lobe, which actually processes sensory information. What happens if it's too much and it gets filled up is that it then crosses over into the limbic brain, which is our emotional center. When this happens, this is when the children are going to start to get emotional. Now you can intervene in this limbic phase, but it is actually very difficult to do. You have to be quite centered in your own energy to be able to create the harmony needed to dissolve this extrasensory overload. So some of the energies that you would need to have running through you and your energy body would need to be clear, so you would have to be somebody that was working on yourself, is you would need compassion, divine love, understanding. These are the energies that are really soft and are going to create that harmonious energy for that child. Now, say you weren't actually able to intervene when it had got to this phase and it actually tripped over into the reptilian brain. Now, the reptilian brain is your primitive brain. So there are two responses it's going to have to that extrasensory overload. Now, when it gets to the reptilian brain, you're not going to be able to stop that overload now. It has now been classed as something threatening the survival of that child. So you're going to have two responses from the child, fight or flight. So flight will look like the child withdrawing. This might be a child that climbs under the desk at school because everything's got too much, or climbs up a tree and won't come down. So they are trying to withdraw from that energy that is overwhelming them. They often can look like it's an autistic withdrawal, but it's not. It's actually these children trying to shut down, trying to find a safe space so they can come back to balance. So one of the ways to deal with this kind of response is that you do need to, again, work very hard to create that harmonious energy, come from that place of understanding, compassion, and divine love. The other response that children will have, and this is the one that people don't like to talk about so much, is the fight response. They're going to see at a primitive level that this extrasensory overload is like an attack, and so they're actually going to fight back. So the first thing they're going to display is ODD-like behaviour. So they'll start getting a bit defiant, not wanting to listen to you, not wanting to actually do what you're asking them to do. And if this continues on until it gets to the purge stage, you may have a child that actually becomes quite violent. They might actually be hurting their siblings or hitting you. They might actually be breaking things or throwing things around their room. So when it gets to this phase, what do you do? How do you actually help them? Well, there is a formula that Spirit has brought through to actually help us and help parents and teachers to be able to actually walk through and create some harmony for these children again and help them come back to their balance. Okay, so the 5 C's is what Spirit has channeled through to help teachers and parents work through a process that helps restore these children to their equilibrium. So the first one is calm. So you need to find a way or a space that creates that calm. So in a classroom, maybe it's the reading corner. At home, maybe it's their bedroom. You create a space that is their safe place where they can go, where they can actually purge out in a safe way. So once they've got to a space of calm, and for those children that are normally aggressive in their purges, it will be when they start to break down and cry that they're actually starting to come back into a place where you can work with them again. They're not going to be rational when they're in the reptilian brain because it's not rational, and they actually need help to cope with what's actually happening with their energy body. So once you've got them to the calm phase, then you actually can come in and you can create that love energy by the cuddle. So you want to actually come in and bring them that love, that divine energy, tell them that everything's okay, that you're there for them. And then that leads into the conscious conversation where they get to be able to start to talk about how they felt about it, what actually sparked this happening, and how you might be able to work with it in the future. And that's come to a resolution. The things that maybe little things that might have been able to stop that purge from happening. And at the very end, you carry on, because this is not something that they need to be punished for, even if they've broken things, even if they've hit out, because they're not actually being naughty. This is not something that needs a consequence. It's something that you carry on once you have actually worked through that process. So there are 3 things that you can do as a parent, teacher, or caregiver to actually assist in this process of these children mastering their energy so they can maintain their equilibrium in a world that is full of subtle energies that are quite harsh. So the first one is energy hygiene. That's learning the skills to be able to create the safe, energetically clear environment. And that requires that as a parent or a teacher, that you take personal responsibility for the energies that you bring into that connection when you connect with that child, because they will pick up anything that's laying there in your makeup. Number 2 is change your perspective, release the old dynamic. We're talking about the old teaching dynamic here and the old parenting dynamic. There is a way that we have been parenting and teaching for generations, but when it comes to these children of the new earth, it doesn't work anymore. They are not the way children were 20 years ago. They are different, and the things that they actually need help with are actually different also. Number 3 is empower the child. Teach them how to clear their spaces. Something as simple as clapping with the intent that you're clearing will help clear a child's bedroom before they go to sleep. Invoking to Archangel Michael will also help. It's a very protective energy and can help create shields. teaching your children how to shield their energy and understanding them, helping them to understand what's actually happening with them so that they can actually be empowered to become the great lights that they are meant to be in this world, to break down that old energy dynamic that is no longer serving us as the earth is shifting into a new way of being. This is an exciting time in the evolution of humanity. These children are living proof that we are evolving in this moment, right now. And it is up to us as caregivers, grandparents, parents and teachers to support their blossoming into this new world. And you don't create a new world by being attached to the present circumstances. So expand your reality. Be willing to learn alongside these children, and we can be world changers too.